And hello and welcome to Codebase Alpha. This is episode number 13. Hopefully, not unlucky for us. And it's April the 1st, so this isn't a joke stream. So we're past 12 o'clock. I believe we have to make the jokes before 12 o'clock, so we should be okay there. Okay, so welcome to all my viewers. It's good to see everyone. So if you could say hello in chat, so I can see Rambling Geeks in chat. So welcome, Rambling Geek. And I'm sure we'll get a few others along in a moment. So, Cody Beard, evening. Good, welcome to you. Good to see you. Okay, so in episode 12, which was last Wednesday, we were looking at introducing GraphQL into the DevStreams project. So we'll just have a quick recap of what we did last time. So on the screen at the moment, you can see we've got the DevStreams website. This is DevChatter's project. Brendan over on DevChatter is putting this together, and what it is a database of live coding streamers, and it keeps their schedules, and also it builds a calendar of when they're streaming in the future. So you should be able to look through the calendar and find out exactly when your favorite streamer is going to stream, and it will be presented in your local time zone. So what we've been doing is trying to build an API for that, and we've chosen GraphQL as the way of doing that. And it's running at the moment, so we actually have a playground that we've put into the system as well, so we can test it without having a client. So let's have a quick look at what we've got. So this is the GraphQL playground. There are a couple of these kind of playground applications out there. There's one called GraphQL, I think, which is quite popular, but this one is the .NET version, and we're not using JavaScript or Apollo server. Everything's going to be in .NET. So we've got a .NET Core 2.2 project going on here. Okay, so with GraphQL, we get the opportunity to define queries against the API. So, for example, if we want to look at all the channels, if I start typing channel, you can see we actually get context-sensitive help here. So we've got channel, which is a single channel or multiple channels. So let's choose multiple channels, and then in here we can just type any letter, and we get some help. So we can look at the name of the channel, and we can look at its ID, perhaps, and we can look at the time zone it's in. So if we just click start on that, you can see we get back all of the data relating to the channels that are currently in the database, but it's in the same format as we actually asked for. So it's no longer coming back in a format that's prescribed necessarily by the API, but how we're asked for it. So, for example, we can go in and say, rather than time zone, we can say that's going to be, we're going to call that TZ. And that's how we want it to be presented back to us. If I hit run again, you see it's coming back in the data as TZ. Once again, with name, we could say channel name, for example. And once we run that, we're getting back channel name, and you can see that the way the data is presented back to us is as an array, and it's in the same kind of format, same layout as we asked for it, which is the kind of the advantage we're going to be able to exploit using GraphQL. Now, last time we also added schedules to the queries that we could do. So if I ask for a schedule here, and we might want to say the start time and the end time and the time zone. Then if we run that, you can see we get the schedules of all of our channels. So here's DevChatter's schedule. So his time zone, America, New York, between 2 and 4 on day. We need the day as well. So let's put the day of week in. Day of week. Let's run that again. On day 1, and day 1 is a Monday, and that's between 2 and 4, and we've got day 2, Tuesday, between 2 and 4, Thursday between 12 and 2, and Saturdays between 1 and 3. And obviously those are coming back in the time zone that's indicated here. So I thought the first thing we could have a look at is actually being able to convert this schedule into our own time zone. We will request a time zone. So let's have a look at doing that. There's one thing I want to do first, and that's to start to separate the all the setup that we're doing in our startup class into its own class, so that we've got our GraphQL registrations all separate. So let's do that first. So we'll just shut this down and we'll go over to Visual Studio. So here's Visual Studio. I'll stop it running. Okay, so in the startup class, obviously we have, this is a .NET Core 2.2 ASP.NET Core 2.2 project. We have our configure services method in our startup class, and this is where we're basically setting up our dependency injection container. And you can see here that I've commented a section here which is all to do with setting up GraphQL. So I thought as the first thing we can do is actually extract that into its own method. In fact, it's into its own class. So let's start that off. Okay, so we'll create a class here. Let's call it register GraphQL, and we'll make that a static class, and we'll give it a method of configure. So public static void configure. Let's spell things right. And in there we want to pop all the stuff that we're doing in the startup here to do with GraphQL. So let's extract that. Let's cut that out and pop that in here. Okay. So obviously we've got a few things we need to sort out. So we need to be passing in the services. Let's see if we can get rid of all these things here. So we need in here, we need to bring in the service collection. So this is the services that we're configuring. So we can create an iServices collection parameter here called services. Okay, let's bring that namespace in. iServices collection, iService collection. Let's bring that namespace in. Okay, there we go. So that should sort out those. We've also got to bring in we want the hosting environment. So you see we've got this env here, and that env is the hosting environment here. So let's grab that and bring that in. So these will be passed in. Okay, and we can get rid of the underscore now, and then we've got our env, and we need to bring this namespace in as well. So that's in the core, the hosting environment. Okay, so we can also now start to bring in some of the namespaces. So we want GraphQL, and we want all the things that are in our infrastructure project for GraphQL. And these as well, so these are our types. So this is what we created last time, our GraphQL types, and then we also want our GraphQL server. Okay, so that now should contain everything we want to do. So it brings out into its own little class all of the components that we're setting up to run our GraphQL service. So let's now pop that over in here. So it was in here, and we want to do register GraphQL.configure, and we want to pass in the services and the environment, the hosting environment. Okay, so there we are. Let's make sure that all is still happy. Let's run it up. So how is everyone today? So GraphQL, Grambling Geek. Why is this and what it does? You've not heard of it? Okay. So what it is a way of having it's really a replacement in many ways for a REST API. So with a REST API, we tend to have many endpoints, and the format of the data that we get is kind of fixed by the actual API that we're calling. So we may have several calls, and we need to make those calls to different endpoints possibly to get the different pieces of data back. So you may have an endpoint for customers, an endpoint for orders, an endpoint for products, and you might need to make multiple calls to those endpoints in order to get all the information you want from the API. With GraphQL, there is only one endpoint. We're not using a controller here, we're using middleware, so there's actually there's no controller involved, so we're not using any of the REST verbs, and we're able to control, as I described earlier, the kind of the format of the data as it comes back. We can change it. So let's just go over to the playground again. Let's show you that once more. So here you can see we're defining what we get back and the order we get it back in. Here we've got our channels. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make a change to this so that we can get these schedules here to come back rather than in the time zone that was in the database. We wanted to ask it to bring back in another time zone. So yes, Rambling Geek, you get to pick what you want to have. So you haven't got to have everything. You can, and we can create new data items that can be requested, which aren't actually, strictly speaking, part of the data model that backs all this. So, for example, we might want to, and we'll do this if we have time this evening. We might want to have a data item called next stream. Now, there isn't any data in the database which specifically is the next stream, but what we can do is actually define that as a data item. We provide the code to fulfill that data item, and then the user, if they want it, can ask for it. Okay, so we'll find a bit more about it as we go along, because I'm learning as well as you are. So I'm just basically one step ahead of where you are if you've never used GraphQL. And I do know there are people who watch the stream who are, if not experts, but certainly very experienced in using GraphQL. So we're starting out with the basics. We're starting out with just the query side, and we'll look at some of the other features in future streams. So if you're stable, welcome to the stream. The Michael Jolly, welcome to the stream as well. Yes, we've got some GraphQL going on. It's a bit like, so Pure Stable is saying GraphQL sounds a bit like the API to an ERP application you used to work with for a while. Basically, everything is done through a single endpoint, and you can structure a request that performed one or more actions. Yes, that's pretty much it. This is the .NET Core implementation, or the .NET Standard implementation of GraphQL, and it's also available in JavaScript and lots of other different languages as well. So it's also database agnostic. So we're not relying on it being an entity framework. In fact, we're using Dapper in this particular project. It could be any form of ORM or even any form of data access, indeed. Okay, so our first stated mission is to be able to say to the API that for a given schedule, we want it to return the schedule data, which is highlighted over here, in the requested time zone and not in the time zone it was entered in. So in the DevStreams system, when you enter your time zone, your start and end times, you enter them in your local time. So for example here, dev chatter, then here's Codebase Alpha. So Europe, London, we have a 9 till 11 and 4 till 6. We've got Noobcat here, and we've got Gareth. And then over here we've got Rambling Geek, Honest Den Games, and Code Rushed, and they haven't got we got a bit of an error here. Look, null America, Costa Rica. We'll sort that out. But you can see we haven't got any times for those. Now, one of the things you can do that we set up last time was to be able to ask for individual channels. So here we're asking for channel number 1. So if we run that, you can see we get just dev chatter. So and if I ask for channel number 6, this is going to be Rambling Geek, I think. We get back our data for Rambling Geek, but you can see I haven't entered a schedule for Rambling Geek into the database. So we get their time zone being Europe/London, but there's no schedule logged. Okay, so let's pull back. Okay, we'll stop it here. So we'll do a quick tour of what we've got so far. So what I did, I created a separate project, an infrastructure project, which contains all of the GraphQL types that we've created. So the basic types we've got so far, we've got a channel type, which is this one here. So this describes a channel or a stream, and it relates directly back to the entity model back here. So it relates to channel. So what the convention that's suggested is that when you take your entity name, which in this case is channel, and this is the data on the channel, and what I've done is I've picked off the simple attributes. So we've got an ID, which is inherited from data entity, and then we've got the name, URI, the country code, and the time zone. And what we've done is created another class which inherits from object graph type, and it's of generic type channel, and we just basically stick the word type at the end of it there. So it's channel type, and that's one of our GraphQL types. The way that we describe the fields on this type, there are two ways of doing that. The first way is using these lambdas here. So field, and with this lambda expression, these work when you've got types on your model which are recognized automatically by GraphQL. So we've got basic things. We've got ID type, we've got integers, we've got doubles, we've got strings. Those kind of basic types all recognized. Stool Penner, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. So we can use this lambda style of declaration for the fields. And for more complicated types, then we can use this generic type here, this generic field. So here we're saying exactly what kind of field it is. So this last one is a list of scheduled stream types. So this list graph type is one of the GraphQL types, and scheduled stream type is basically our version of the scheduled stream entity model over here. So we can look at that, and it's over here, scheduled stream type, and you can see this is slightly more complicated. It's got some basic fields which come directly from the entity model, but if you pop across to scheduled stream, you can see that we have some types here which GraphQL doesn't know about. So there's the ISO day of week and the local time. So these are coming from Noda time. Pure Snable says, another pretty cool thing about that ERP system was that you could explore the API by using the GUI, which basically was a reflection of the API. So this does it as well, Pure Snable. So GraphQL provides that feature. It's called introspection in GraphQL parlance, and basically you get IntelliSense. So it will kind of self-describe what the data items are and the structures in there. In fact, when you then come to be able to add arguments, which we're going to be doing, it will describe what those are as well. So it's a very similar idea. And you do get that GUI to build up your queries, which is the playground. Okay, so you can see we've got this day of week and local time, and what we've done, we went onto the internet and we hit gold, and when we found that when I typed in GraphQL Noda time, we found that somebody had already created some classes which enable us to basically do a mapping between the date time, which these are, and Noda time within GraphQL. So these are these items over here. So we've got ISO day of week graph type. So we've done an attribution here to the person who actually developed these, and that's their GitHub. And you can see it's basically we are implementing, we are inheriting from scalar graph type. So these are scalar types, and basically they're kind of day of week type things. And we've got local time local time here. We also found instant on there and put that in. However, the instant implementation that we found on this GitHub repository didn't particularly like the implementation because it was actually using exceptions as a flow control. So we ripped that out and we pared it down so it didn't use that feature. There's obviously some features that the designer of this class wanted it to do, which our class doesn't do. However, I wasn't prepared to kind of implement something which used exception handling as a form of flow control. It just kind of goes against everything you really want to do. Okay, so that's a quick run through those types. So we've created all those types, and we've tied them back to the entity types, which are in this in our core project here, or DevChatter's core project with the models in. The other components that we've got in our GraphQL infrastructure project. So if you're stable, at least it wasn't returning the good values of exceptions. No, it wasn't. No, but it was just like you kind of cringe when you see that. Now, there's probably good reasons why he designed it that way, but I don't think we need the features he was trying to use, because those were in the instant graph type, and it seemed to be wanting to handle them as strings. But we know that in our database, the instants are being stored as date times. So I think we're safe to use that in this case. We may have to dig a bit deeper if we wanted to actually do it any different. Okay, so the other two components are the query. So this is where we build our query up. So you can see we've got two aspects to the query so far. We've got channels, where we get all channels, and we've got channel, where we actually supply an argument called ID, and that gives us back that ID, so just that one channel with the ID. And we'll get used to this kind of syntax as we go along. Basically here we're defining a field. It's a list graph type of channel types. The text here is the name of the data item as the user is going to see it or use it, which is channels. And then we have a thing called a resolver. And the resolver basically here is taking the repository, the Dapper repository we've got, and basically getting all channels. And in this case, we're bringing in an argument called ID. We grab the value of the ID, and then we get just that channel from the repo. So the other part is the schema, and here we define the query that we were using, which is our DevStreams query, which we just looked at, and we've also registered our new types. So these are the new types which we've added to GraphQL so that it can handle those types. So we're going to add, actually, while we're here, we're going to add the instant type. Let's just add that in. So type of, and then it was instant graph type. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So we've added that in. So now we've got all three of our kind of custom types handled, and this is pretty much equivalent to what we did in Dapper. So Brendan went over to Dapper and he created these type handlers, so that you can see there's an instant type handler and a local time handler. So it's very similar. So obviously in SQL there aren't those types. So this is handling that type conversion to and from SQL. So it's very similar kind of idea. Okay, so let's try and figure out what we want to do in terms of the schedules. Okay, so so you can see here we've got highlighted on the screen, we've got our schedule. So this is where it's going to go. It's going to go off, and from the scheduled stream service, it's going to get the channel schedule. So the scheduled stream service, that's over in the DAPA portion of things, over in the services. The scheduled stream service is here, and the get channel schedule, as you can see here, is basically it's using DAPA to go and get a list of scheduled streams for a particular channel ID, and it's returning us a list. So we're going to kind of we're going to need to use that. Okay. So let's think what we can do here. So if we go over back to our query, which was here, you can see that we're able to add arguments. And this is the syntax for adding arguments. Okay, so we have query arguments, and then that is basically a sequence of arguments, individual arguments. So let's try the same thing here. So arguments, oops. So it's quite a good idea in this case to start using these labels, because it can get a bit confusing about what all of these components of the field are. So let's pop over here again. You can see what we're doing is we're creating a new query arguments and then a query argument. So let's do the same pattern here. So this is a new query arguments, and it's going to contain a new query argument, and this is going to be right, that's better. This is going to be so it's going to have a name, which is going to be, so we need to give it a type, so it's going to be a string. So it's going to be a string graph type, and its name is going to be time zone. Oops, sorry, time zone. Okay, so we've now got that as an argument, and to see the effect of that, it won't actually do anything at this stage. But let's just have a quick look and see what that actually means. When we go to our playground, it comes up. There we go. Here we can actually we have time zone available as an argument. Okay, so we can start to put things in there. We could put in Europe/London. And if we were getting 1, then what the idea is we put that in, and when we press go, we're going to get these dates, these times, back in our requested time zone and not in the time zone that is coming back at the moment, which is what's in the database, so the American New York. Okay, so that's the plan. Now, in order to achieve that, we actually have to do the code that does that. So we need to give that a bit of thought. So let's start off by let's create a private method. So this is going to be it's going to return a list graph type of schedule, stream schedule, stream what's it called? Scheduled stream. Scheduled stream. Okay, it's going to return that, and we'll call it get scheduled streams. Get scheduled streams. Okay, and it's going to take in an integer which is going to be our channel ID. Okay, what do we want it to do? We want it to do basically what we're doing here. So we want to go and get the channel, the scheduled stream. So schedule is going to be scheduled stream service, and we want the channel ID in there. Let's make that the capital. Okay, and we say we're going to need to pass in a scheduled stream service, so let's pass that in. So what we'll do is we'll simply create a private variable up here called scheduled stream service. There, and then in our constructor we'll simply set that. So that is going to be equal to what we passed in. Hitting the wrong keys a lot today. Okay, so now we've got that, and we can simply underscore this, and we've got our scheduled stream service passed in. So if we now replace this like that, and if we return schedule, then basically we've got the equivalent. So what is this expecting to be returned? So I think it's just a list of scheduled streams. Is this async? Yes, it's async, so we need to return. We need to async this and task it like that, and we need to await this. Okay, so it's still not happy. What's it not happy about? So schedule is await that. So we are a task of that. Hybrid async task of that. How do you work with backward compatibility in GraphQL? Robert Tables, thanks for the follow. That's follow number 80. Thank you so much for that. Yes, it's okay to stop by for a few moments and say hello. That's great. Thank you very much, Robert Tables. That's fantastic. Fuel Stable, could you work with backwards compatibility in GraphQL? Could you expand on that question, please? I'm not quite sure what you're trying to get at. So at the moment, I am being being scuppered by this, aren't I? So oh, I'm missing a namespace. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, there we are. Right, and we're probably going to need a list in here, aren't we? We need some generic. There we go. Okay, so now we've basically got what we had before, and what we need to do now, I think, is to we need to get this argument, and we need to pass this into here. So what we can do is to actually grab that out of the context. And I believe this is what we can do. So, sorry, CTX is going to map to and we're going to return that. Let's get the CTX correct. That's the context that we're working with, and we need to await this. Do we need to await it? Get scheduled streams does not exist in the current context. There we go. And that, I believe, should have a semicolon. Does it need a closing? There we go. Okay, so from here now we should be able to pull out that variable. So if you're Snable, you expose a service using GraphQL, you want to add some new fields, you want existing users to be able to use the service as before, but also new users to use the new fields. So yeah, so if you add the birth date, what you can do is simply add it, and then the old users won't actually have that. They won't be using that new feature, that new field. So the queries they're asking won't have it. As you can see, when we go back to the playground, you choose what field you want. So you add birth date to the to your API. Old users, they're not asking for that. New users know about it, can, and then if the older users want to start using it, all they do is add that into their queries. So really, you don't have this problem of version 1, version 2, because you've changed the underlying data structure so that the clients will break. The clients continue to ask for what they want. You can even change the names, because how do you deprecate fields, Snable? That's a good question. I haven't got a trite answer for that one, I'm afraid. I don't know how you'd do that. I'd have to read up about versioning under GraphQL. So I see I'm one step ahead of anyone who's not used GraphQL. I'm learning at the same kind of rate as you are. So I will find out for you and let you know. Yeah, they are quite hard questions, sure, Snowball, because this is the first time I've used GraphQL in Angular, so I'm not here to kind of give you a demo or to teach you as such how to use it. We're kind of learning together. But I think if Gareth Hubble comes on, he's used GraphQL for legacy APIs, so he may be able to help with this question. Okay, let's carry on. So let's have a variable which is going to be time zone, and we need to get that time zone. So out of the context, we can do a get argument. The argument is going to be, we called it time zone, didn't we? So that should grab that argument out. So it's going to be a string. There we go. Right, so that brings our time zone argument out, and we'll pass that in to our method. So we'll add string time zone. Okay, so now we've got our time zone coming in here. We've got our list. We've got our list here. So what I think we need to do is actually take the result of that. Oops, sorry. So we'll come back and fiddle with this in a bit. and we're no longer async. Okay, so what I want to do is actually start to manipulate this this list we've got back. So here we've got a list of schedules, list of scheduled streams. Gareth, welcome to the stream. Yes, Fuel Stable had a question about GraphQL. He was talking about backwards compatibility. We discussed adding a new field to the GraphQL schema as such, but Fuel Stable was asking if you want to deprecate a field, how is that handled in GraphQL so that it doesn't break older clients? One would suspect if you deprecate a field which an older client is actually using, then it will break it. But maybe you've got some insight from your experience. You don't deprecate fields. Okay, there you go. So far as you know. Yes, Gav, thanks for confirming that. Yeah. So I guess it just yeah, it's if you think about it, because of the way you could have, I guess you could create a second endpoint, a version 2 GraphQL endpoint which didn't have those fields in it. But that seems to me to be kind of defeating the point of GraphQL, which is the single endpoint, and the client asks for what it wants in the format it wants. Yes, so you could possibly change the name, although the clients would need to know to actually to map that to the name they want. Yeah. You want breaking changes, you bankrupt the company and start a new one. Fuel Stable. As I say, I think Gareth is the best person to kind of comment on this at this stage. He's got a lot more experience than I have with this, so let's hope Gareth can actually provide you with a satisfactory answer, which seems to be no, you don't do that, and it seems to be fiddlesticks. We don't do backwards compatibility, but yeah, adding fields, say that's easy. Okay, so let's do the simplest thing that could possibly work. So let's look at the value of time zone. So if there's actually a value in time zone, then we want to actually step through all of the values, all of the fields in the channel scheduled channel list we get back, and alter them. So so what do we want to do exactly? So I'm going to schedule. So we've got we're going to step through all of them, don't we? So let's do a for each. So for each what should we call it? Yeah, naming. I'm struggling with naming. You've got an idea. So this is, so we're going to say in schedule. If you've got a schedule which is one or more times for each, let's call this schedules. No, we'll call it stream. So for our stream, is that a good one? I'll try that. Which stream in the schedule. Then we're going to want to convert the time zones. So let's just see what we've got in stream. Stream dot. Maybe stream's not the best. For start time stream dot. So it's local start time. Okay. So what we'll do, we'll say that stream dot time zone ID is going to be the time zone. So we'll send back the time zone they asked for. And then we want to do a conversion. So we want to say something along the lines of local start time is equal to convert between time zones. We're going to want to pass in the stream local start time. We're going to pass in, so we're going to do this bit last. We want to pass in the stream time zone, and we want to pass in the time zone that we want to convert to. Okay, and then we want to do that same thing for the end time. Okay, so we need to create this, or create it as a private method for now. Okay, so we're taking in a local time, which is a start time, or just call it local time now. And so this is going to be from time zone from and to time zone. So let's quickly check chat. Sounds like job security, fuel stable. Highly doubt that we're all learning together. Yes. Yes. I've had people, Gareth, you said you've had 2 people leading you astray on working on shaders. So this is the ray tracing you're doing. Adam Hubmeister, welcome to the stream. So we're deep into GraphQL again. Okay, so where were we? So we're gonna do this. So what we need to know how to do is to convert in node time between the times between different time zones. So let's go and have a look on Tinternet. Node time convert between time zones. Okay. Times offsets, we don't want that. Converting between time zones with node time. Oh look, we've got the Wizzy trail on Stack Overflow. It's so 90s. Oh, I love it. That's an April Fool. And we've got the very 90s or 80s website look with all the images. Wonderful, and the trail. Okay, so what's this telling us? So convert from UTC to Eastern. So not quite what we want to do, is it? We want to convert between 2 different time zones. This is converting from UTC to and from UTC. Should be something similar, shouldn't it? So I think we need to do this. We need to get the date time zones. So we need the date time zone provider things we've got there. So let's set those up. From time zone is going to be it was going to be date time zone provider. Date time zone providers TZDB, and then in square brackets we need from TZ, and we'll do the same for the 2. That's going to be the 2 times Z. We need to convert these into node type zoned times. So let's have a look about that. So yeah, googling for the win says a hubster. Yes, definitely. Fuel Snowball's trying to get everyone to code shaders, the most fun you've had in years in programming. Yeah, I'm interested in watching Gareth stream on when he looks at his GPU programming. Yeah, it should be fun. I think he was going to do it on Sunday rather, I believe, Gareth, but didn't manage to stream. So yeah, so let's have a look. So we've got what have we got to do? I don't think this is particularly being very helpful. So let's get rid of this. So node time, convert time between time zones. So as you can see, I'm a bit of a node time tyro. So this is the proper way to convert between. This is really distracting. Doesn't look like Stack Overflow anymore. Okay, so this looks more like it, and this is the method actually here. Look for us. So they're taking. So that we already got a local date time. Let's just pinch this code. Why not? Paste that into here. Let's see what it does. Now we've pasted it in, we are beholden to actually examine the code and make sure it's not offensive or does things we don't want to do. Oops, what happened there? I could have deleted more than one thing. There we go. So it's very similar to what we had before, but so it's taking a local. So this is a local date time that we've got here, a local time. So from time. Local time. So we'll put it in the vars. So can we convert this to the time, do you think? So local time, is there an equivalent from time? So we don't need to do that, we've already got local time. So we can remove that first line, we don't need to do that. So we've got our time zones here. So what have we got? What methods have we got on a local time? Nothing according to that. Right, interesting. So we hit our first interesting issue. So we've got a local time. So let's go back to our friend Google. Well, in this case, DuckDuckGo. Node time. Convert local time between time. Yeah, so time zones are fun. Robert Tables, as you say, time zones are fun. Converting between time zones with node time. Right, is this where we've been before? So what are they doing here? They're returning instance. We don't particularly want an instance. Instant dot. Okay. So can we do what we want? Oh, okay, let's think. So this is John Skeet replying. John Skeet is obviously the author or the major contributor of Node Time. So I wonder if we let's have a look at the database. Let's have a look at what the database shows. So we need to look in the schedule table. It's called stream schedules. Scheduled stream rather. Scheduled streams. See how they're storing it, because they're probably storing it at date time, aren't they? Talking about MIDI's playing in the background, Gareth, let's have some music to soothe us, because I think... Oh, that's the clapping. There we go. We want this. Bit of music in the background. If that music's too loud or you can't hear it, please let me know. I'm still fiddling with the audio levels on this this rig. Okay, so that's where were we? We were going over to here to it was called scheduled streams. There we go. So what we actually got in here. So we're in a free database tier, so it's a bit slow, so I do apologise. Okay, so we've actually got date times in there. Okay, so let's see what we can do with that. So we're bringing. So this is of type local time. Let's have a quick look. Local time. Local time to local date time. To help if I spell it right. Converting local time. That's Java. This is presumably Joda time. So that's not what we want. We want Node time. Node time. So there was actually a useful little playground with Node time, which was quite good. Local time. Has it got anything of use to us? Local date time. Local date time, does it have a link we can use? So I want to convert the two, don't I? I want to. So, a hubster, what you're saying there, in public instant now. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Could you explain what that code you posted there, a hubster is? So these are the kind of things we want. We want to be able to convert using this lenient in zone leniently, don't we? That's what our code that we grabbed did. So from local. Yes, you posted a link there, Adam. You can't post links, I'm afraid. Nightbot's set to its most aggressive, and will not allow you to post a link, even though you can see the link. Nobody else can, and I can't either. So, let's have a look what this was. What's the best way to approach this then without being really, really nasty? You'd have thought we could be able to do something converting between the times. Patterns for local time values. Let's have a look. Oh, these are just date time formatting. Choosing and converting between types. So we convert. So it looks like it's local date time is the kind of root of it. So far, local date time. New local date time. And we'll choose. So 1900 1. Is that only going to allow us to do that? And then we're going to this is not very pleasant, is it? Add. We're not going to add hours. Let's go back to the documentation, and we want local date time. Date time. Those are properties. We want some methods. Add. It's not being very helpful. Date time is a normal date time type. Okay, Adam, so date time, to local date time. Yeah, I'm not sure how that. We've got a local time. So, oh, see, you see, convert to local date time. Okay, we can probably do that. So take a date time, and then add in This is really nasty and horrible, isn't it? But I suppose we better do it. Add. Oh, I don't like it at all. From time dot hour. We'll give it a go and see where it takes us. Add minutes from time minutes. Okay, so now we've got a date time, local date time. We convert it. Oops, sorry about that. We do the conversion there. So we get a zoned. So this is going to be local date time. Oh, then we have to do 2 local date time. Two local time. So yeah. So Adam, you found a 2 local date time. Let's have a look. So maybe it's so we investigate, just play around and see what we can see. So local date time dot from date time. It's a bit nasty, but we'll stick with it. See what it does. Okay, so we've got that. So then we get our time zone, which is going to be something like America / New York. Convert it. And we've got here a local date time, and we can do can we do a 2 local time? Wow, interesting. Let's try it out then, shall we? What's it complaining about? Let's have a look. Let's tidy up a bit. And it's saying, can I? Oh, okay, so this is no local time, that's correct. And this has got to be a local time. Okay, there we go. Well, let's give it a go. All we can do. So, Adam, you googled converting to and from local time in C# with no time. Okay, let's I'll just grab that and post that as well. Let's see what that search brings back. The first one. So he's doing a similar kind of thing, isn't he? He's actually constructing a date time there. Clowns123 for the follow. Thank you very much. Most appreciate the follow. That's fantastic. So we now just 19% of our goal to go. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for the follow. Really, really appreciate it. You don't know how much it means to me. Okay, so that's what they're saying here. So they're taking in a date time, aren't they? So yeah, well, let's stick with what we've got and see what happens. Oh, it's now complaining about this. So we just want local date time to local time. So local date time does not contain a definition for to local time. What does it contain? To date time unspecified. To local time. So what's that bringing back? A date time. We seem to be defeated at all stages here, aren't we? To local time converts the value of the current date to local time. So that's obviously not what we think. It's not a node of. Is that a node? That's obviously not a node of time thing, is it? Okay, let's go back to what Adam found and have a look. So it's returning a date time in UTC. We just want the time elements to it. Okay. Can we construct a local time? So return. So to local is a local date time. So local time. So there seems to be a bit of a kind of a bit of a problem here with, unless I'm missing something blind in the obvious, this has got to be something what people would want to be able to do. All I want to do is change the time. So just do we just Zebo, did you follow? Thank you very much for the follow, Zebo. So I didn't notice that. I was deep in thought, so I do apologise for missing that follow. Zebo, thank you very much. 82 followers, that's wonderful. It's yeah, on my wildest dreams. Okay. Thank you for the encouragement, Zebo. Yes, it's times up. This is the true live coding experience, isn't it? Trying to figure out exactly how we solve this problem. It's looking a bit messy, this method, so we're probably going to have to come back to it at some point, but let's see if we can get it to do something. So local time, we've got a local date time and we want to change it. We want just the time portion of it. So can we build a local time type? We can build it from hours and minutes, so let's just do that. So we want to local, we want new local time, and we want the hour there. So it feels like a lot of work just to do this. To local minutes. So I'm pretty sure we don't need the seconds. Local time, yeah. Put the part. Yes, so Adam, yeah. So you're suggesting what I've just done, which is to put the various parts into there. So let's see if we can get this actually to do anything useful. So let's run up our playground and see what we can see. Time, eh? Time zones and time. Complicated. Okay, so let's have a look. So let's get rid of the time zone argument for now and just make sure we're getting what we expect. So we're still getting our results. So here we got 1400 to 1600 in the America New York time zone for dev chatter. So let's now actually add our argument. So it was time zone, and we're going to ask for in Europe, London. Okay, you want to keep everything crossed? Okay, so it's actually worked. So it's come back now in the London time. So it's now 1900 to 2100, and these are the correct times. So at least that's worked. I'm not sure it's the nicest method at all, but we've now got that kind of conversion going on. Okay, well, I think that's a bit of a victory of sorts. So let's have a look at this code. I think I'm going to leave it as it is for now, and come back and look at it either off stream or in another stream, because we don't want to get too bogged down in that method. It works. It's a bit nasty, but this is actually the format that database is storing the date time, so it's not exactly wrong to convert it like this. Okay, right. Now, one thing I wanted to look at was this whole field here. So what this is doing is for every channel, it's firing a query off to the database to get the list of scheduled streams. And that's fine when you're querying one, but if we had 50 channels and we were using the other version of the query, which was for channels, which I'll show you, just so we all know what we're talking about. So we've got a UI playing around, and if we, instead of just looking for the one channel, we look at all channels in the database. We've only got 6 or 7 in there at the moment. It comes back quite quickly, but in fact what that's doing is firing off, if you've got 6 channels, it's actually firing 7 queries. So for each of the channels, it's actually bringing back all the channels, and then for each of the channels it's also firing a query to the database for the schedules, and that is pretty inefficient. What we really would like to do would to kind of have some kind of caching where we kind of hold all that information in memory, so we're not actually hitting the database continually. And so GraphQL has a feature called DataLoader, which basically provides that kind of feature. So let's go and have a look at DataLoader. So I've got a website here, which is the GraphQL.net website, and they've got an article here about DataLoader. And so it explains the problem is that when you do this query, you're getting an n+1 problem. So here, if you've got a user and 50 orders, then you're getting 51 queries to the database. So as we start getting larger and larger databases, this will become more and more inefficient and slower. And down here is an example of using DataLoader. And what this is basically going to do, it's going to go and get all of the schedules, and it's going to create a lookup, and it's going to use that lookup to populate the individual schedules per channel. So if you go and get channels 5 to 20, it will actually go and get the schedules for channels 5 to 20, all of them at the same time in one query, and then it will use the lookup to kind of match them up. So using this data type called a lookup, which is basically a dictionary, but it's got some kind of search facilities in it. And this is what we need to do to actually do this kind of caching. And we're not going to see the kind of performance benefit in our database because we've only got kind of 6 channels in, but we need to kind of explore this pattern. because it's what we're going to want to be using further in the future. So in order to get this, we need to do two things. The first thing we need to do is we need to use DataLoader to our startup, and also we need to inject this DataLoader context accessor into our channel type. So let's go and look at that first. So we'll keep that on the screen. Well, we'll minimize that and have a look over here. Okay, so in our startup class, remember that we pulled out all of the GraphQL things into here. We're going to need here to add DataLoader. Oops, I've got to put the dot. There we go. Add DataLoader. So DataLoader is the kind of caching and batching solution which GraphQL comes with, and we need to kind of learn to use it in this simple example, and then try and apply it to more complicated scenarios. So this, we're going to need to extract this method here out into something a bit more generic. We'll do that in a moment. Let's get it working with DataLoader first. Okay, so let's just remove that for now. We may need to bring async back into things. Okay, so let's go and have a look over here. So we've got this DataLoader context accessor that we need to inject. So let's get that in. So it needs to come in here. So we'll bring it in there. And we'll bring the namespace in as well. So that's the GraphQL DataLoader. And then what do we do next? Okay. We go over here. Okay. So what it's saying is we use the accessor, and we're going to do something along these lines. So we use the accessor, and we use get or add collection batch loader, and this is the format of the lookup, so an integer and then in this case an order. We give it a name, and then we give it basically it's a delegate to the method that we're going to use to actually grab the data. Okay, so we're going to need to do a fair bit of changes here in order to use this pattern. Let's check over into chat. Andrew2G, you have a question. Is it possible to use GraphQL queries at the back-end side for preparing more complicated queries? For example, I need to read most recent posts of a blog, and for each post also read the most recent comments. For each comment I also need to read how many links they have, etc, etc. I would like to execute only one HTTP request from the front-end side to get all of those details, and this request should be pointed to the custom method which loading may use GraphQL methods. Exaggerating, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So at the moment we're only going 2 levels deep, so we're getting the channel and their schedule, but we also want to get their scheduled sessions and their Twitch information and their Mixer information. So it's pretty much what we're doing, Andrew2G. So just follow along, and you can do all of that from a single endpoint. Yes. Yes, as Gareth has pointed out there, this is basically what GraphQL is all about: solving that issue and just having one place to get it, and then the client actually asks for what it wants rather than for what we define it's going to get. So we're actually doing what you're talking about there. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So we need a loader. So it was the accessor, and there's a context on the accessor, and we want the. So there's several different methods here. So there's a batch loader and a collection batch loader. So we're actually getting collections here. We're getting more than one record. So let's use that. And what we need to give it so this is going to be an DataLoader, and if you can read the help there, it's saying we need T key and T enumerable of T. So we're going to key it by integer, and we're going to get stream scheduled stream back, and then we provide the next thing we provide is a loader key, which is a string. I will just call it that, and then we need a delegate, which is going to be that. So that's not quite working because this doesn't return the right thing. Let's fix up that. Okay. So this has got to be a function which returns yeah. Okay. So we're going to need something which turns this lookup, because we want the lookup to come back into here. So we're going to need to go and write that. Now there is a scheduled stream service here, so this seems the obvious place to write it. So we've got a get channel schedule, which is what we were using at the moment, but what we want is actually a lookup of int and stream schedule here. Okay, so let's write something along those lines. So we need to go and update the interface first. So what's it going to be? It's going to return a task. We'll try and make it async if we can. And rather than a list, it's going to be an iLookup. And that is going to be an int and a scheduled stream. Just bring in the namespace there. And what should we call it? Get channel channel schedule lookup. Perhaps, and we'll pass in their channel ID. Okay, that seems reasonable. I've got no angle bracket. There we go. Let's go back over here to our scheduled stream. Let's implement that. We'll move it up. We'll move it up towards the top. Put it here. Okay. Okay. So so we want something along the lines of this. So we want to get some schedules back. So schedules, we want to get so what we're going to be passing in is not a channel ID. We're going to be passing in channel IDs, aren't we? So we want to pass in an enumerable of channel IDs. Let's go and fix up that interface. I'm going to bring that in. Okay. So we've got our database connection. So we're using Dapper here, remember. Adam, good night, and see you in the morning, perhaps. Thanks for joining the stream. Okay, so connection. So we want to create a query. We want to query this. So we want to query async. Have we got a query async? Yeah, we have. And we want to get scheduled stream back. So we need to provide it with some SQL. So let's give it some SQL. So the SQL is going to be. So we want to select star from stream schedules. Typing's particularly bad tonight. Schedules, and we want to go where channel is in channel IDs. Okay, that's that. And down here we've got our SQL, and we need to pass in our arguments, and the arguments is going to be channel IDs equal channel IDs. So I've got the new. That's an anonymous object. New there, and we need to await that. We need to get a list back. To list. Okay, so we've got a list, and then we need to return what do we call it? Schedules, and we can convert that to a lookup, and it's going to be based on the channel ID. Channel ID. So is that returning the right thing? So what's that giving me? It's giving me a lookup. That should be okay. I made a mistake somewhere. So return that. What's it throwing up here for? Is that right? It's better. So number of integers. Anyone spot anything? It's looking a bit. So it's. Scheduled stream. It's saying it cannot convert link lookup. To a list. I'm not trying to convert it to a list. That's iLookup. Yep, okay, we spotted it. So what's it complained about down here now? So I'll look up int that. And this is now complaining. What's that complaining about? Oh, silly me. I've been fiddling with the wrong one, haven't I? I've converted the wrong one. Let's just go and grab that. That should say that. It's just going to be really cringeworthy when I get back, watch this back on stream. I think I'm getting a bit tired. So that's that one. So this is now returning at least async on it. Okay, now we're happy. Okay. So is everyone happy with what we've done there? So what we're doing, even though I confused myself by copying this down and then actually updating the wrong method, which is a real dirt moment. So what we're doing here is we're getting a lookup, which is basically a dictionary of an integer of some sort, which is the channel ID, and then all the scheduled streams for that, for every channel ID we pass in. So we pass in a list, for example, of channel IDs, and we're going to get them all back. So that should be usable over here now then. So it was called get scheduled lookup, get channel scheduled lookup. So let's go and grab that. It is basically that, isn't it? Okay, except we don't want to get that here, we want to get that down here. So we want to grab that there, pop it down in here. Schedule lookup is that, and this is going to be the local again. So pop that back there. So we need to come back to this. That's going to be our underscore. So instead of having a simple list now, we've got this lookup. So what have we got on this lookup? Let's just check through my notes because I think we're nearly there with this. So where's that note I had on this? So I do write some notes, and sometimes they are helpful, sometimes they're not. So we're going to return loader. And on loader, with a load async, and we pass that in. So we're starting to get to a question mark whether this is actually going to work, because can we pass the time zone in there as well? You think? Just taking the key. Okay. So we're going to have to be a bit more generic with this. Get scheduled streams. Why is it saying that's not? Can it convert method group? Okay. This is an iLookup. Of that. And it wants it to be a task. So is that. Yeah, we're digging ourselves into a bit of a pit here, I think. Let's keep on going. I thought we'd need that task back. Okay. And we should be able to await that. And in there we need to pass in it's not going to work, is it? We need to move this logic. Yeah, we got a bit of a problem here, I think. We're going to have to move this logic around. Let's give it some thought. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's just get this loader to work, and then we'll come back. So I want we might get it from there actually. If we take that, pop that in there, then we're not using any of this. Let's comment that out. Let's get the loader working. So now we're actually we're passing our list of channels into this get channel schedule lookup, and then we're using the loader to batch that. So it's going to batch that up and give us our cache, and then we're going to return it. So the interesting thing here is that he's returning based on the key, and this is limited. So this has to be to check. It's taking channel IDs. So can we pass the time zone into there, I wonder? Let's make sure it works first, and then we can have a look at it. If anyone's got any ideas about how to solve this, do chime in chat. Otherwise, I'm going to give it a go, and then we'll see if we can move the logic, and see what happens. So now, if we get channels and we don't use the time zone, it should all still work, which it does. Actually, no, it does. It's bringing back nulls. How interesting. Okay, so it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. So we're getting an error here. Incorrect syntax. So I've got a mistake in my SQL bulk. Let's go and have a look at that. So we get this working, then we've got a basis for trying to get the rest of it to work. So here, there, we misspelt it. Channel ID. There we go. Channel ID in channels. Okay, let's try again. Oh, thank you for the bits. Oh, thank you very much. That's wonderful. I didn't hear all of that. Thank you, Carey. That's very kind of you. You're top of the leaderboard in April, 1st of April, and you're top of the leaderboard. That's so generous. Okay, so let's see if it works again now. Okay, so it isn't working, so let's have a look. What's it saying? Incorrect syntax, no channel IDs. Okay, let's go back and have a look again. There we go, another spelling mistake. I'm really on form today, aren't I? Me and my typing. Good night. Oh, so night test, Penna. Take care. Yes, I'm going to have to finish very soon. Yes, looking forward to your next stream, Kerry. I can come along to. Okay, let's try this again. Pray. Still not working. So what's it saying now? Invalid object name stream schedules. Okay. At least it's giving us good error messages. From stream set schedules. That's not an object, is it not? Okay, let's have a look. It's called scheduled streams. Oh dear me. Scheduled streams. So just complete mess of bad typing. Typical. Anyone who knows me in chat will know that I'm notorious for really ridiculous spelling mistakes. Okay, so we're back working. So that's good at least. So the data loader is now working. So Andrew 2G, if you're in chat still, then these are the kind of documentation that you're getting from GraphQL. So this is your schema. Tells you everything you can get. You can download this stuff, and you've also got the kind of documentation you build up. So it's quite useful. Okay, so let's see if we can do what we want to do. And that is to be able to pass a time zone in, isn't it? So we've got so currently our method here just takes our schedule stream method just takes a channel and the numeral of channel IDs. So let's have it take a string time zone as well. This is not great kind of query design. We'll just see if we can get it to work this way. So now over in channel type, this is expecting to take enumerable int. I'll change the wrong one. So it's going to take a enumerable int and a time zone. So can we get this to recognize that? don't think we're going to. It's not going to let us do it, is it? It just wants to take in the one thing. Okay. Okay. So let's go back and remove time zone from here. I don't think it was a great idea to have it on there anyway, but it was a thought. Okay. Channel type. So let's resurrect this. So I can get a method in, and okay, so let's give it a go like this. So we're going to pass in, we're going to run that instead. We can't do that, can we? So this wants to take in the enumerable int channel IDs, and then we're going to pass that in here. Channel IDs. Okay. So we need to get the time zone in there as well. So let's have a private method. So we'll just do it this way and let's see if we can get any better. And we'll, you know, a time zone here rather than that. Rather than making a local variable, make it the global variable there. And then we can bring in that. Like that. We still need to move this off somewhere else. And here we've got schedule lookup. So schedule lookup. This is an I lookup of int schedule lookup, and the var is an I grouping. So what can we do with this? Can we get the key? Can we iterate over that? Let's go and have a look at some documentation on iLookup. The iLookup interface. The item key. Nope, nothing called that. iLookup key element. Okay. What methods have we got? Just contains. Is there any method we got? How do we iterate over it? Let's have a look. C# iterate over lookup. Looping over iLookup. Oh, Stack Overflow is just blowing my mind. Lookup is a list of lists. So iGrouping implements IEnumerable of T element. So in your case, T element is also a list. You end up with an enumerable of enumerable. So for each group item in the lookup table, get the key. Not that helpful. Doesn't seem like a complete bit of code. What's that doing? Group item.key. Okay, so it's just a list. It looks like if we're better off with a just a for each within a for each. That makes sense to me. Each item in that. Okay, so we're now dealing with a scheduled stream here. So let's see what that does for us, shall we? So remember that our aim is to try and use the DataLoader feature, but also to get our time zone conversion working. Playground. Okay, so let's see if it still works, which it does. So there's DevChatter's times in his native time zone, and there's Codebase Alpha in GMT, well BST at the moment. So let's add a time zone. So time zone, and we're going to convert this to Europe/London. And what happens? And it works. It works by gum. It works. So there we are. We've got it working. So we've got we started off developing the time zone conversion. We then remove that and put in DataLoader. Now we combine the two. So I think that is a suitable endpoint for the stream. I had planned to do a lot more, to be honest with you, but we did run into a few issues. So let's have a look. Let's just quickly recap. So what I'd like to do is pull this time converter out. So let's think where we can put that. So is that something which... Oh, thank you again, Carey. Another 100 bits. Thank you. Yes, it's a bit of a woohoo kind of moment, isn't it? Really. Yes, I'm quite pleased that actually worked. It's taken us the best part of 2 hours to get that working. So, but we've learned something at least. We learned. I mean, I've not really used lookups that much. Used them a little bit, so I do understand the concept, but it's quite involved. And this data loader, this get add collection batch loader thing is quite involved, as you can see. So I was quite pleased to get that working. Okay, so where can we put this utility here? Where is it best to live? I'm not really sure the best place for it to put it. So it's kind of a node at time thing. Have we got node at time in core? Let's have a look, see if we've got node at time in core. We do. So let's put it into here. So let's add a new folder called helpers. And we'll add a class time zone helpers. Time zone helper. Make that public static, and we'll pop that over here. Yeah. To bring all the namespaces that we need in, which is all that. And so I'm trying to keep the project structure quite tidy for Dev Chatter, so that it's not got. I don't when we do the PR for this, we're not actually presenting them with a mess, which will just mean the PR will take a long time to go through. So that was time zone helpers. Time zone helper. Dot and then bring that in. Well, there we go. Okay, we'll build that. Okay, so I'm quite pleased with that. So let's just remove those usings. So I think we've kind of achieved part of what I was going to do according to my notes here. So the other parts in my notes were we were going to also look at getting all the sessions back, and also putting some skip and takes on there, so you can get not only the latest when the next stream is going to be, but the next 5 or the next 10, or you can do pagination of the streams, because the way that Dev Streams works is that it actually produces the next 52 weeks worth of stream dates. So there's an awful lot of information come back, so pagination is quite important, and you can do that using the link commands skip and take, and we can work out how to do that next time. Okay, I'm going to now see if we can find someone to raid. If anyone's got any suggestions, do well, first thing we'll do actually, we'll just commit this to our repo. So this is going up into GitHub. I'll just pop a link in chat. So all the code we write is on GitHub. This is episode 13's code for the GraphQL in the GraphQL branch of the DevStreams fork that I'm running on the repo. There's also an Alexa text fit branch of this, and the master, which is the current master from DevChatter stream. There's also the Alexa library, which is now a NuGet package. The latest version up on NuGet is 0.2.5. I believe I've squeezed all the bugs out of that now, so if you're using that, please download the latest. I was amazed to see there's been well over, I think, over 150 downloads of that package, which is quite amazing really, since it only went up, I think it was last Monday. So yeah, incredible. So thank you for everyone who has downloaded that, is playing with it. If you find any bugs, please let me know via Discord. So let's sync that up to our GitHub. And for some reason, asked me that for that key again. I must sort that out. Okay, so that now will be up on GitHub for you to have a look at and have a play with, if you're so inclined. Let's now find someone to raid, shall we? So let's close these down and go over to Twitch. So nobody's come up with any suggestions, so I assume that nobody has any particular preferences. Let's go and see who's available. Channel. Actually, it's really quiet on the developer front. There isn't anyone I can see. So there's no people I follow actually are streaming at the moment. So I think I'll just have to end the stream there. So thank you for everyone who has viewed. Oh, you see Codephobia. Oh well, yeah, Kerry, you could start streaming. If you start streaming, then I'll send this raid over to you. Yeah, do it. Stream. You're on the phone. Oh, never mind. Okay, so someone called Codephobia. Let's see if we can find Codephobia. I don't know them. Codephobia. Here we go. Yeah, we'll send them a raid their way. So thank you everyone for watching. Do stay with me for the raid. Otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday, 4 o'clock UK time, and we'll continue with this work. So we'll try and get some more of the queries built, and maybe even start to look at mutations. So good night all, and enjoy the raid.